Hey everybody, welcome back to another vlog post. In a pretty good mood at the moment. I'm a little tired. It's been a long, stressful week. We did have two friends of ours that were going to try to come down and see us from San Antonio this weekend, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. On the plus side, we did have another friend that was visiting from out of state, passing through Houston. So we did get to spend some time with him tonight. Went out to have dinner with him, which was kind of cool to catch up. And ironically enough, the restaurant he picked is owned by a family friend that we hadn't seen in 15 years. So it was nice to kind of catch up with her as well. Dinner was great, great conversation. Kind of took my mind off of everything that's been going on this week. And also tomorrow, if all goes according to plan, we're going to see another friend of ours who I used to work with, about 14 something years ago, something like that, when I worked at the bank. She came into town from about 9 hours west of us in Odessa, so that's going to be kind of cool. So all that in mind, I had a different topic I was going to, cover on this vlog here. But being that I'm in a good mood, we're going to talk comedians because comedians' job is make you laugh, take your mind off everything, and that's kind of what the last few hours have kind of done for me. So comedians. I've always been a fan of not any one specific comedian, but just comedy in general. I like the slapstick stuff. I like the more brainy comedy as well. One of my favorite comedians of all time was George Carlin. I just love because I'm just a sarcastic son of a bitch as well. I always loved his shows and just the way he looked at life and the way he was comical about everyday things. I mean, yeah, he got a little vulgar here and there, but it never really bothered me. I mean, I'm Italian; it's in my DNA to curse. I was in the military, so that kind of stuff doesn't really faze me. I never got a chance to see him, but I always did watch his shows when they came on TV. Another comedian I like is Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist. I mean, I remember watching him way back in the day when he was on Johnny Carson because as a little kid, my grandmother and I used to watch Johnny Carson on Friday nights. So a lot of positive memories of that. We had an opportunity to go see him. We had an opportunity if we wanted to go see him. He was passing through New Orleans. And I like Jeff Dunham. I got a bunch of his DVDs, but I wasn't paying $85 to see him sitting up in the nosebleeds. So we passed on that. Maybe if he ever comes around somewhere and it's a little bit more affordable, we'll definitely check him out. Back in the day, Robin Williams, I thought was a great comedian. I mean, he's a good actor too, but he also did a lot of live shows, which were very entertaining. Somebody else I used to really like too was the late great John Panette. He was just hysterical. I mean, okay, he was an actor. He was in the third Revenge of the Nerds movie or the fourth one. I kind of lose track whichever one it was, but I always used to like his shows. Self depreciating comedy is something I can kind of get on board with because a lot of times I like to laugh and joke about myself and my struggles, so I can kind of understand that mentality. One guy I like a lot too. His name is Pablo Francisco. He's famous for doing the movie previews guy. If in another world. I can't remember. Don LaFontaine was his name. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he's got that very distinct voice. And he did a lot of the movie trailers. So basically, Pablo Francisco has a whole skit where he's famous for not making fun of, but kind of paying tribute to Don LaFontaine, and he's just a funny guy anyway. Somebody else I liked is Russell Peters. He believe he's an Indian comedian. He's really funny. I've seen a couple of his shows. Mind you, I've never seen any of these in person. When I say I've seen these I've seen on TV. Um, Not really a huge fan of them, but I've watched the blue collar comedy tour movies with Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable Guy, Bill Engvall, and Ron White. Ron White's probably my favorite of the group. Again, that self depreciation humor I really like. I might not be saying the right word, but you guys know what I'm getting at. Rodney Carrington is another one I've been listening to for a long time. I first heard him when I was back in the army. One of my buddies that was in my unit was a big fan of his. But the only comedian I ever had an opportunity to see live was one of my favorite comedians of all time back in my teen years. Now, let me set this up real quick. For you youngsters out there who are probably, let's say, 30 and under. You've got MTV, which stands for Music Television, and VH1, which I think was Video Hits 1, whatever. Back in the days of the dinosaur, they used to have these things called music videos. Imagine that. Music television, music videos. After that, they kind of moved into animated things, and then they had the stupid reality shows, which took over and destroyed it. And, I haven't turned on MTV or VH1 in decades, but when I was a teenager, VH1, most of the day would be music videos, but then for a certain portion of the day, they would show comedy shows from Gallagher. Okay, for those of you who have never seen Gallagher, he's a funny guy. That being said, looking back on his shows now, they don't really translate these days. They're very much a product of the early 80s of their time. But Gallagher was big on props, and he's most famous for one prop called the Sledge-O-Matic. Basically, he does this whole show, and then the very end of the show, he has this giant hammer that looks like Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, where he smashes food, he smashes all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I watched him back in the day as a kid, a teenager, and I really enjoyed him. I mean, I thought they were funny. They were, like I said, he uses a lot of props in the show. Physical comedy, not so much slapstick, but a lot of props. But I would watch him with my two buddies, the two brothers I was good friends with in high school. We'd watch and laugh. We'd watch them together, or we'd watch them separately and kind of tell each other the jokes and get a good kick out of it. And I do remember one time he was coming to, I believe it's called the Westbury Music Fair on Long Island. It was a very small, I wouldn't even call it an arena, but just, they had these live music venues. It was a round stage, and it would rotate around so that no matter what seat you had, you'd get a front view of the band or whatever. Mostly they had music there, but, at this time they had Gallagher. So having seen him on TV, I was well aware of what you're going to expect when you go see a Gallagher show. We were sitting a little further back. We weren't all the way in the back. And again, this is a small place. This is not like a sports stadium or anything. But I went with the two brothers, and we had a freaking blast. I mean, it was hysterical. He was as funny as he was on all of his specials. And, he's up there with the Sledge-O-Matic just smashing food, and stuff is going everywhere. If you ever go back and watch any of his shows, they're probably on YouTube. I just happen to have that old DVD set from the early 2000s that has most of his shows. I don't even know if he does comedy anymore. I mean, this is like a long time back. Anyway, we had a blast. I mean, it was funny. He had all his props. He's sitting there smashing stuff, and food's going everywhere. Well, then a couple months later, or maybe it was a year or two later, he came back, to the Westbury Music Fair again. And I went with my high school girlfriend, and we got seats in the front row. So we knew, having watched the show, even though she wasn't a huge fan, I guess, just something she wanted to go, and I wasn't going to say no because I enjoyed it. We knew we'd be covered. So we had like plastic bags, and we had, like a hooded sweatshirt or something like that. And I mean, by the time the show was done, we had like pickles in my ear, mustard in my hair. I mean, it was just, if he's around anymore and you ever go see him, sit a little further back unless you're willing to just cover yourself in food and water and all kinds of stuff. But like I said, he was really funny for me back in the day as a teenager. But looking back on it now, I mean, it's still kind of funny. But again, it was very much a product of that time, of that era. I don't think a lot of that humor would translate nowadays. Not that there's like, not with like the perpetually offended crowd about everything. I mean, he doesn't really get too racy or too controversial or anything like that. I just think the humor is a different kind of humor. I think people today take life way too seriously at times, and I'm guilty of that myself. So I just don't think that brand of humor would kind of come across well these days. I just don't think it holds up by today's standards. Back in that time, it was hysterical. Again, like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really watched one for 10 years or something like that. You know, I've seen like clips here and there, but I just remember like seeing it live and in person was just hysterical. I mean, I was just laughing for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then, you know, like I said, we're getting pelted by like all kinds of food and drinks and everything because we're in the front. And it's just funny because like anyone who knows him, they've all got plastic bags and stuff in the front. But I don't even know if he's around anymore. I don't know if he's still alive anymore. I know he had a big lawsuit. He's got like a twin brother that kind of was doing shows pretending to be him on the side, and he had like a big lawsuit. And I think he got himself into a bunch of legal trouble back in the day. I don't know, but that was the only comedian I've ever actually seen live and in person, and I had a blast. You know, well, no, I take it back. Um, Rebecca and I had been on 3 cruises, which is kind of ironic. Maybe I'll do a video about that someday. But, oh yeah, why not? I need topics to come up with. So on the cruise ships, the Carnival cruise ships, they always have you know, a comedian that's on there because we've done like the 5 day cruises, and you know they do like not really late evening. They'll have a show that's kind of G rated, and then, you know, 11, 12 o'clock at night they'll have like the R rated show where pretty much anything goes. So we've seen 3 comedians in that fashion. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. So the only like big time comedian I saw live was Gallagher, but I remember there was a guy, Mutzi was one of his names. I guess he was like a Cajun dude or something. He was pretty funny. We saw him on one cruise. I can't remember the other. John Allen something. It was like a country comedian was on another cruise, and he was pretty good. And there was a third guy. I can't remember his name. Kind of a more well known guy. God, I can't remember, but I just remember that Rebecca didn't feel good this one night. She didn't go. I went, had a blast, right? But they had 2 comedians at the show. There was one white guy that was like drunk as a skunk. He wasn't funny at all. And then there was this other guy, Dave, I can't remember if it was Dave Williams, whatever his name was. Well, anyway, long story short, the next day, you know, we're walking around the ship, and Rebecca's talking to this guy, and it's actually the good comedian from that night, you know. And I come walking up, and she's like telling him, "Oh yeah, you know, he went to the show last night, but he said one of the comedians was terrible." And I'm like, "Oh crap! Of course he's gonna think." And I was like, "No, not you, the drunk guy." I was like, "You were freaking hysterical," you know. Um, I can't remember his name. I should have probably researched this, but it just kind of popped in my head. But you know, those shows were fun. I mean, it's probably not the same as like going and seeing it in like a professional club or something, but you know, it was different. It was an exciting experience. Um, you know, the cruise. And again, I am going to do a cruise video because that was a whole another experience. I mean, it's something different. You know, when you're on the ship, uh, if you're not finding something to do, you're going out of your way. There's so much stuff to do, and I always did enjoy the comedy shows, even if it was like the G-rated ones. I would kind of go to both, you know, because like I said, I I didn't really sleep much on the ship anyway, so. So this is a little bit shorter video. Like I said, I just kind of, since I was in a good mood, I figured let me do something, you know, about happiness and whatnot. You know, comedians, like I said, I don't really watch very many of them anymore these days. There's just not much to laugh about in the world anymore. But you know, maybe this is the time we need comedians, you know, to take our mind off of the craziness that we deal with. Oh, I forgot to mention Carlos Mencia. I know he's got a lot of issues and, you know, plagiarism claims and whatnot, but I used to like watching him, and his show was pretty good for the first couple seasons. Yeah, and like I said, just I was in a good mood. We got to see a friend of ours tonight. You know, we missed our 2 friends that couldn't make it to town, but you know, hopefully tomorrow we'll see our other friend that, you know, she's in town from Odessa. So I was in a good mood. I figured let me just do a happy positive video. Hope I don't jinx myself, because every time I get in a good mood, life tends, you know, come along and flip you the bird. But again, shorter video. Just wanted to share that with you guys. If you do enjoy these videos, please subscribe, hit the like button, leave some comments. I always like hearing your feedback, and we'll see you guys in the next video.